A very warm welcome to you and thank you for joining us on Health and Wellness. My name is Zaitun Ali and we are coming to you from the Fairview Hotel right here at Bishop Road, Upper Hill. And the topic of the day is autism spectrum disorder, which actually impairs the ability for one to just socialize and interact well. And on set, I have Rispa Micheni. Yes, I have Rispa Micheni, who is an occupational therapist. And I also have Pauline Wamukoa. She is the founder of Mali Therapy Center, and she's also a mom to one boy who is a 9-year-old and living with autism. So they will help us to dissect this reality. And don't forget, I have an audience on the other side. Welcome to the show. Yes, so let me start with you, Rispa. And as we talk about ASD, autism spectrum disorder, what does it mean?
First of all, let me thank you so much for having me here. So autism spectrum disorder, it's a developmental disorder which causes differences in the brain. So it has its 3 main cardinal signs, which are now the lack of socialization skills, then there is delayed speech, then there are those repetitive behaviors that this child has. So basically autism is an umbrella name, meaning there are different types of autism. So that is the meaning of autism, the ASD itself.
Oh, thank you for that definition. And as we're talking, Pauline, maybe you can take us through your journey with baby Mali. He's called Mali?
Yes.
An inspiration towards the school that you started.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, we got Mali's diagnosis at 2.5 around there. So it's you really have to be keen to be able to notice these disruptions in the development for a child when they are young. So I think at around 1.5, Mali was humming. You know, he was a jovial child. So by the time he was heading to 2 years, he just went quiet. So, and you know how our parents are. My mom came to the house and she told me, no, you need to take this child to school. Because as Africans, our background, that's the first thing. If a child is quiet and not doing anything, aende shule.
Yeah.
So I took Mali to school, and after one term, the school called me and they told me that they feel like there's something more to going on with Mali, and they directed me to the Gertrude's Developmental Center. So we went there, booked an appointment. There are long queues there because it's the only hospital that does that. So we went and we got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
It was a bit challenging because at that time, he's now 9. Then 7 years ago, you didn't know where to go. And the only therapist you were told that could help you are occupational therapists. And if you do your research, you realize that the child needs speech therapy, occupational, physical,
There's
so much. If you also look at the price, you ask for a therapist per hour, you're told 3,000 to 4,500. You look, this is not the only child you have, you wonder, okay. So we started with occupational therapy. We did it for 1 year, and I had to resign from my job, and I decided to go back to school and now do music therapy, do behavioral therapy, because in my research I realized that those were the top therapists that could help my child. So the doctor told us on that day when we were getting the results that this is a lifelong disorder. So meaning that if we are lucky, he will live a meaningful life. If we are not lucky, that is how he's going to be, even in his adulthood. So I said, okay, give me the options. What do I need to do? So those are the options we were given for therapy, and we started therapy quite early. And I can say that early intervention is the best, because if you start early, the brain is very malleable. You can train it to do anything. It might take longer because the children take longer to grasp, but once an autistic child is able to grasp, they never forget. Never forget. So, and they're very sharp. So it depends. If they are good in art, you have to also know where your child is placed. So that's what we did, and now the boy is talking. He's in a mainstream school. He's still undergoing therapy because, like we said, it's lifelong. So there are a few things we are still handling here and there. And that was my inspiration for setting up the autism school, because I realized not everyone can afford daily therapy, because you are told you need speech at least minimum of 4 sessions in a week. That is 5 times 4. You need occupational therapy. It's not just one therapy. You need we've said speech, occupational. You need behavioral therapy. Tell me how many parents can afford to
that.
pay 4-5 times 3 in a week, you know? So that was too much. So what we do at Mali is that we just offer therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Rispa, let me ask, what causes this disorder, and how is it even detected? Because I understand there are no diagnostic tests to know if this child is suffering from autism. So what causes it, and how do you detect it?
So what causes autism? There are 3. The cause itself is unknown. However, researchers have come to realize there are 3 main causes of autism. One being genetic, meaning this child has inherited it from the parents. Maybe either it might not be the biological parents, but even there was a second or third generation of the family. Then there is also biological, meaning this child might have genes between the 2 parents. There's also something we call old age. If a parent is at an age that is maybe, we can say, we give an example of being at 35 years and you are getting a child as a firstborn, they are challenged. 35? Yes.
Is it that young?
Yes, there is a probability of you getting a child with autism. Then there is also another thing on biological, that when you as a parent, you, not on biological, sorry, there's something else on environmental, that researchers say that when you are exposed as a expectant mother, especially on 25 to 28 weeks of gestation, and you are on a very polluted environment, or you are inhaling very many chemicals, you are traveling in and out of the country, you are relocating from Kenya to maybe US, to Rwanda, there's a probability of you having a child with autism.
Oh my God! And
so those are the main causes we know of autism. The researchers are still researching because we still need to know what is the main cause of autism. So when what tells you that this child is autistic?
Yes.
This child this child doesn't meet the milestones as they are expected. There are those developmental milestones like a head control, a child will walk, a child will crawl.
Yes.
So you might find the autistic child lives a normal life, will walk, but now it's 1 year, 1.5, no babbling sounds. The child is not copying any behavior. The child wants to be alone. The child doesn't even play with any toy. The child can't express themselves. This child cannot have some behaviors that you see this is not normal to a 1.5-year-old. So that when as a parent you see this child is not verbal, this child is not, it's normal for any typical child to play with other kids. A child's occupation is play. So it's normal for every child to be able to play at 1.5. So this child is not playing. This child is not interacting with any other child. This child has a repetitive behavior like tantrums. You just tell this child maybe he wanted something and you take it away, or it's something that can hurt the child, and the child just throws himself down or bangs into things. It's 18 months. So that's when you can detect this child. There are some signs I see that they're not okay to my child at 1.5. So that's when you start seeking help. And now when you start seeking help, you have to meet many professionals. That's why we advise, as occupational therapists, I'll tell you to go to a neurologist. The neurologist will carry a whole assessment and tell you if your child is autistic and which level the child is. Because also the autism has levels. Yes. There's a mild and a severe autistic child. Yeah.
So for yours, Pauline, what was the case in terms of, was it mild, was it severe, and did you go to a neurologist as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we saw a neurologist, and we did they recommended some tests, and we did some tests, and they told us the diagnosis that we got was screen-induced autism.
Screen-induced?
Yes.
So how does this work?
So this is now, we're very young people, you're busy just starting a family. So when you're going to work, you leave your child with the nanny and the child is left on the screen. Because the child won't disturb, the child feeds well when they are watching the TV. Yeah, so that one. So remember, the screen does not help the brain at all. It makes the brain sleep. That's what the professionals tell us.
It's true.
Yeah.
Once the child is starting the babbling sounds and has ba 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 ma 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 2 to 3 words and watches on the screen, 3 minutes scratches that words that this child has.
Yeah, that's what they say. That 3 minutes of screen time, I think, takes 90 words. That.
But we find that most of the kids, as they watch the screens and everything, they get to learn a lot, especially with the education about colors, about everything. So where's the discrepancy? Some learn and some don't. How?
How? Because the way we started with, like, it's a difference in the brain, in the brain, and this is on the nervous system being affected.
Okay.
This nervous system, that is the main function of the nervous system, is to improve the memory and also improve the sensory integration. Yeah. So you'll find this child will maybe learn on colors, but will not learn on mathematics, or will be learning on colors, but it's 2 minutes. Or might take a whole year learning on those colors.
Yeah,
this is
you might see your child is learning on colors or sounds or everything, but how long did he or she take to learn on those sounds from the screen? Or
or you see them watching the same cartoon all through, and you're like, my baby loves Cocomelon, and this is it. No, it's not. It's just that repetitive, because the brain is not able to process anything else. And also, when you're talking about screen time, we are not saying that all screen time is bad. No, we are saying how long. You know, the duration is what we're talking about. It's not about, you can be very intentional on the type of message that you want your child to see. Like you're saying, like there's a cartoon that's now we're pushing our parents in the support group to watch, Miss Rachel. She talks like a teacher. Like immediately the screen starts, they'll say clap your hands, touch your head. You see, those ones are they're tutorials.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's different. So if you decide that you want your child to have screen time, you have to also be very intentional with the duration, and also intentional in what your child is watching. Is the child at that age? Because we say 0 to 2 years, the child does not need any screen time.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because what are they learning?
Nothing.
You know. Yeah. So and sometimes it really hides a lot that is going on, because when the child is on that screen, you come home and you're looking at your child. Hi. Everything. You feel like everything is okay. But when the screen is not there, you will notice my child is not walking. My child is not waving. My child is. There's something wrong, then you can do something about it.
Okay. And then a question arises, does it get to children maybe above 3 years? Can one get it when you're like 7, 5? Or it has to be when you're in 2 to 3?
Autism, a child is born with it. However, we have not been able to identify it when you are born with it. Immediately you are inborn. But now the signs come to show up when this child is 18 months. They might be talking, that the way I told you, it's a spectrum. Other kids might be talking, they enroll in school even in 3 years. In 4 years, then a regression just peeps in. And now that's also a type of autism. You might find this child is 4 years, but there are some things he has not been doing which could have gone with his developmental age, his or her developmental age.
Okay, that is well understood.
Just add on that, we have acquired, like you're saying, like maybe through trauma, a child went through something, and they maybe lost their hearing. Yeah. So when they lose their hearing, then we call it acquired autism, because they will lose some milestones because they cannot hear, they cannot learn. Yeah. Sorry. Or maybe they had a brain injury. So that one, they were not born with it, but they acquired it along the way, and it can be, with a lot of therapy, it can be corrected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how has the relationship been? Do you have one child?
No.
How has the relationship been with his sibling?
Well, I have 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
his siblings.
I have 4, and he's the second born.
Okay.
And it's quite interesting because it's a challenge. When you're celebrating milestones with one child, you don't know, because him and the third born, they're just like a year apart. And this one is graduating from school. Like, this is the season for kids graduating.
Yeah.
And this one is not graduating. And you can even see the youngest is peaking earlier than him. So there's that balance that you really need to find, and even teach your children that he's still older than you. He's your big brother.
Yeah.
And you have to respect and all that. But apart from that, my children understand autism. They understand what their brother is going through. Sometimes it's not easy, because when we are going for therapy, they have to sacrifice even a term out of school. Yes, because when we are looking for therapy, the world does not wait and say, okay, we'll wait during holiday. So maybe you're looking for therapy in India, and they tell you the only available time is in June, and the kids are in school. So we travel. We go, because you don't know how long. Yes, all of us will travel, because you don't know how long it will take.
Yeah.
Because we made a mistake during COVID, and we stayed there for 9 months. We were locked out of the country for so long. So now we have a policy. We just go. And yeah, so it takes a lot of sacrifice for families.
Yes.
With the children with disabilities. But we feel like the sacrifice is worth it. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Rispa, sorry, you can talk to us about the common risk factors that come along with this disorder.
Okay, just as I said it earlier, what can now make you as a mother or as a person to have a child with autism? Just on the whatever has been researched. Yeah, like if you are expectant and you walk in and out of the country at 25 to 28 weeks, not that when you are expectant today and do, but past the 28 weeks, doesn't make it doesn't. You will not get a child with autism. It's just an environmental. It's just an environmental factor.
Yeah. And even let me ask about the occupational therapy when they come to you.
Yeah.
Take us through step by step. Yes, especially when they're young.
Yeah. So as an occupational therapist, occupational stands for occupation of this child, which is even at 18 months, the occupation of this child is play. So an autistic child play is already affected because of lack of interaction, lack of communication, the repetitive behaviors that can hinder this child having having play. So as an occupational therapist, when this child comes to me, the first thing I do is an assessment, and this assessment entails a lot. So first of all, as an occupational therapy, I'll ask the parent questions about how is concentration span of this child. And the parent will be like, it's 10 to 5 minutes, then leaves. So I get to understand this child has an impaired concentration span. In between, there is lack of attention span, because if it's a span of 5 to 10 minutes, the attention is affected. So I asked the parent, how does your child, is 18 months, is this child able to, maybe those coping behaviors? A child in 18 months is walking, so I expect there's a child who will find a cup here and hold the cup, want to put it in the mouth because he saw the mom doing it. But you find our kids with autism doesn't do that. I'll ask the mother, how does the child reach, can the child reach, grasp, and maybe take a sip of water and release the cup back? The parent will tell you no, because this is a child who has affected fine motor skills, which is reaching, grasping, and releasing an object. It's also something that comes off with muscle strength, because can be able to reach, can grasp, but the muscle strength is not there. The child cannot lift up the cup. So I'm also going to work on the muscle strength of this child. I also ask a parent, how does your child feed? Is he able to scoop? Those are different prehensile patterns. Can your child scoop food? Can your child hold a water bottle open? Can your child, if you are in the sink and you want your child to wash your hands, how does the child wash her hands? Can he grab the hands? Those are some of the things we assess on this child. We also ask the parent how
and before going on to that one, we'll come back. We just want to take a short commercial break, and we'll come back with more of what occupational therapy is about and how beneficial it is to this child suffering from this disorder. So stay tuned. This is Health and Wellness. Don't go too far. Welcome back. This is Health and Wellness. If you've just joined us, we're talking about the autism spectrum disorder. My name is Zaitun Ali, and on set, I have Rispa Michedi, who is an occupational therapist, and I also have Pauline, who is a mom to a boy living with autism, and she's shared her story. We've gotten to hear about the symptoms, the fine motor skills that you're saying about occupational therapy. And remember, this is the time I also get to engage my audience about the questions they have to our experts as we go on through the show. Yes, so Rispa, you can continue about occupational therapy.
Okay, thank you so much. So it now comes back as I continue the occupational therapy assessment.
Yes.
So I come also to asking the parent, how are the gross motor skills? Gross motor skills are the milestones that involve large muscles. This is jumping, crawling, walking. I'll ask, how did your child crawl? Because if the child didn't crawl, will be affected in running. And running is a skill that this child needs to have. How will you escape when there is a danger?
Yeah.
So if I'll ask a parent, did your child crawl? And the parent will be, some crawled, others didn't crawl. And so I'll be able to know, am I supposed to work on this milestone? I'll ask, is your child able to climb the stairs? Because it's also a milestone the child should be having. And some parents will be like, can't climb stairs, others can do 1 to 2, then they'll just crawl on the stairs. So it's a milestone this child needs to have. So, and as an occupational therapist, if your child didn't crawl, to some point you'll find your child is not able to jump, your child is not able to run. So these are the skills I'll be able to train your child during my sessions. So I also go to something like we call activities of daily living. These are activities at the end of the day. As an occupational therapy, I'm aiming this child to be independent. So I'll assess, how does this child do the dressing skills? It's a 1.5-year-old. The parent will be like, how does a 1.5 do the dressing skills? But this child should be able to identify, should know I have my body parts and every limb is moving. So how, when you're dressing this child, does he move the hand, or you have to hold the hand, force it in? So this is a child who should be having movements of the limbs. So I'll ask, how does the dressing happen? To a 1.5, it will be dependent. But to a child who is 5 years old, I'm expecting this child to have met the developmental milestone on dressing, which should be independent, can dress up on everything. So if there's a challenge, I'll have to intervene as an occupational therapist, where I train activities like buttoning, unbuttoning, zipping, tying a lacing, and making also a knot, because they will not always wear shoes with buckles.
Yeah,
they have to do shoes with laces. So I also have to train on how to also tie a knot, how to open the knot again. When it comes to girls, I have to train on grooming. Does this child allow a nail cut? Does this child, if it's a boy, does he allow a haircut? If it's a girl, does this child allow her hair being done? So, so you find that these kids have sensitivities. We call it a hypersensitive sensitivity that makes this child not be able to, will not allow her nails being cut, will not allow his or her hair being cut, will not allow that salonist to stay maneuvering her hands on my head because of the sensitivity. So you find some kids, they'll just stay with maybe one style of hair even for 2 months, because his mom cannot be able to unplait the hair because it's something that is not easy for the mom and also for the child. So as an occupational therapist, we use something called a pressure brush that we use to alleviate the sensitivity as the child is ongoing with the sessions. And you find with time the sensitivity fades away. So I also assess on toileting skills. These are a challenging skill for most kids with autism. So we put a child in a schedule, but we assure the parent this is a long-term goal. Why a long-term goal? Because this child, before I train the toileting, this is a child who needs to have a foundation of concentration, attention, and eye contact, so that when I take him to the potty, he'll understand I'm going to the potty, what am I going to do? Concentration and attention, how long will I have to stay there? I'm not just going to stay and walk out. I have to wait for the urge. I finish, I wake up, I clean up, I'm taking time. So that's why it's a long-term goal for toileting. So we train on toileting, we put the child in a schedule. We start with 15 minutes, goes to the washroom. We extend as the child is ongoing, we extend the schedule to 30 minutes, to 45 minutes, to an hour. And you find a child can stay a whole session without messing up. And we're happy for that because it's something that can take long, but it's achievable. Yeah. Then we also train on feeding. We assess on feeding because the way I was telling you how to hold a spoon, put the spoon, scoop food, hold it nicely until it comes to my mouth. It's not something, it might be easy for you because you can scoop, but this is a brain that has to register, organize, and process. I have to hold a spoon, I scoop, I lift it up until it comes to my mouth, and then I have to remove it back and put it to the plate. Yeah, so it's something that has to register, organize, and process in the child's brain. So you find our kids, most of them don't feed themselves, or they just want finger foods, something like a cut watermelon, an apple, crepes, just something you can pick on because that is easy. But scooping is something that needs a brain to process about it. So occupational therapists, we train on that.
You do quite a lot. You do quite a lot. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you guys undergone this process as well?
Yeah, it's, you know, when we were doing the diagnosis, we were given a sheet to fill in. And that's when you realize, actually, if a school tells you your child has a problem, you might not really think it's. But if now they give you the assessment forms, then you go through them, then you realize, oh my God, because at that 2.5, we were dressing this boy. You know, he was still on diapers. He should have been toilet trained. He was not feeding by himself. He was still doing blended food. We were being told he has weak jaw muscles. You're like, what do you mean? It's not, so you're taught about texture. So that's what occupational does. They help you, even if, for example, we've been doing potatoes for a long time. So if you're trying to introduce new food, it has to be the same texture because of the jaw muscles. They also do exercises to help that. So cutting of nails, that has been drama in my house.
Until now?
Until now. That one is, you have to wait for him to sleep, then you cut. Otherwise, cutting of hair, I was joking with some people that I had to wait for him to sleep and just do an X because I tried dreadlocks, he doesn't want me to touch. So those are hypersensitivities that you have to work through. And it doesn't, like she's saying, it's a long-term goal. You have to really be patient with these kids.
What are some of the milestones that Mali has taken and has reached on and that you're really proud about?
What I'm really proud about is he sleeps the whole night. Let me tell you. That was just, you can imagine staying, a child will sleep at 7 and wake up at 2 and you have to be at work by 8. So that was very crazy. So he sleeps the whole night now. He's toilet trained. He's feeding himself. We are away from blended food. We are eating food. We are eating potatoes, ugali, rice, that. He's in school. He's writing his name. He can read, you know, a storybook. Not at his level, but he can read. So that is a lot for me.
Good job to Mali.
Thank you.
Good job. Yes, and at this juncture, I want to involve our audience, and I can see they are really pressed. They have questions for our experts right here. You can just start by telling us your name and who the question is directed to. Karibu.
Hello, my name is Bright, and my question goes to Dr. Rispa. I'm asking if the relationship between the parents can affect an autistic child.
I like your question. So, meaning in case there is fight between the mom and the dad can affect her.
Or in any other case, if they are relating well to each other, yeah, in that case.
Yeah, so, the question is so funny. Yeah, as we said earlier, it's on brain differences in the brain. So your relationship also as a parent to your child, you might never know if this child is autistic because the child is 1 or you didn't know, 1.5. This is a child who also you need to talk to so much. And now you're fighting now and then. We don't say it can be a main cause to a child who is autistic, to your child to be autistic. But we advocate that any child, whether autistic or not, your differences should not show up to your child. So maybe Madam Colleen can help me to answer more on that.
Brings me to the question. What do you do when it comes to discipline?
Okay.
Yes.
So I will answer her that I do a lot of parents counseling at the center. That's why she's thrown that to me. And like I said, there are some acquired autism cases. And on the bad side is a child might experience divorce. We have a child who was 5 years, who had speech and everything. And when the parents separated, he stopped talking. So when they brought the child to the center, I looked at everything because immediately the boy came to, I also do assessment, came to my office. He was reading, he rushed to my bookshelf, reading books, he was everywhere. So I excused the boy and I asked the mom, tell me, when did this start? Because in behavioral therapy, I'm also a behavioral therapist, and we go back and we have to look at the ABCs. What happened before this issue, during the issue and after? So we look at that. And like your question is right, yes, there are some trauma-based incidences that affect. And also, we have noticed that when parents are together and they are working together towards that goal, the child comes out of or achieves some targets faster. So a good relationship definitely will give a positive environment for the child, and a negative environment could actually hamper the growth of the child. Even in therapies, you'll find that if you're not working together, then the child will not be able to do what we are teaching at the center back home, because like we are saying, it's lifelong. So even if the child is in therapy, as a family, you need to be able to cope if, for example, COVID comes again, right? Yeah, so that works. Secondly, you're telling me how discipline. Yes. You have to be able to get to a point where you know the difference between an autistic Mali and the character of the child. So an autistic Mali, when autism is what tunasema ile autism imeshika. Okay. So when it is at that point where he's having meltdowns, when he's hyperactivity, you'll see he'll be climbing, he'll be craving for a lot of carbs, he won't sleep well. Sometimes a child who's already toilet trained is already bedwetting, So those are the telltale signs. You see it coming. It just doesn't hit you. So maybe children with autism thrive under routine. So if his routine has changed, especially when we are transitioning school holidays, to some people are good, to some of us they're just terrible, because he wants to wake up in the morning, he wants to take his breakfast, he wants to go to school. Because of the routine. Yes, so they thrive in routine. Yeah. So that means that 1 week after school, we are going to have issues because his mind is trained in that routine. So they want to know what to expect tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're able to know, is this Mali's character? Is he trying to just be spoiled? Or he's really going through a hard time because his routine has changed? Then now you know, we've introduced timeout.
Yeah.
We pull away his gadgets, yeah, because now we have put, he likes drawing, he likes molding, a lot of molding. So everything he molds, he draws on the tablet and then he molds. So when you take it from him, that's discipline. So you have to, like we're saying, it's a spectrum. You have to find what works for you, what works in your home. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think.
The 9 years, you've learnt a lot. You
Yeah.
truly have.
Yes, I have.
Any other question?
For me, it's about the musical therapy. Maybe you can expound on that because it's something that we're just getting to hear about. Yeah.
So I'm a level 1 Tomatis music therapist, and I did that for my son. And one thing music does, it calms the child down. One of the characteristics of an autistic child is hyperactivity. So before they go into session, they will go and have their music therapy, whether 20 minutes, depending on the child and on the diagnosis we have. The sessions that we have for music therapy are 90 minutes, yeah? So, and we tailor make them depending on the child, if it's autism only, if it is autism and Down syndrome, if it is autism coupled with another diagnosis. So depending, they have that in the morning and then they can be able to go for their sessions. If a child is having tantrums, they can listen to music. This is just not normal music. They are tailor-made for each child. And then we have different classes of music. Also the headphones have a metal thing on top of it that they help in brain activity. Yeah, so if the child is very hyper, they might even sleep. Some of them even wet themselves if the hyperactivity is at another level. That's how we gauge. Yeah, within the 20 minutes, either they sleep or, so it is just there to calm you down, to help you now be able to settle down and go to the other one. It also sends, as we are doing music therapy, for the children who have advanced, we introduce puzzles, we introduce coloring, we introduce different activities that maybe the other therapists have been having a difficulty in introducing. So that way the mind, like she's saying, she says coordination. The mind is able the mind is calm and it is able now to introduce this other one. So we have programs for, if you want, not only for children with disabilities only, even for depressed, anxiety, depression. We have, if you want to introduce a new language, if you want to learn French, we have the way we tailor make it for you. You listen to it for 14 days. And you can now be able, now that part of your brain has been activated and you can be able to introduce something new. Yes.
Maybe a last question.
Yeah.
Most of the time when you're speaking, you're mentioning about a child.
Yes.
How about someone who's just discovered they had autism or they were neglected and they are past maybe a certain age, maybe they're past 15 years and they're a teenager now. Are you able to assist?
Yes, so my main focus has been on early intervention, but as we are doing a lot of awareness programs, even us being here is part of awareness, we have noticed that there are very many neglected autistic adults. And we have formed a support group for their moms and for them, and they're able to tell us now, you know, at 15, if you have speech, then you are able to tell me, I feel overwhelmed when I'm in this phase. So we are able to help you in that capacity. Why? Because we've seen the brain is malleable, but only 0 to 10 years. I can tell you from 10 years, and that we're just trying to push things. So at that stage, we look at boys. How do we introduce them to the society? How do they deal with girls, you know? Because the hormones are raging. How do they handle that? We have men that are mentoring those boys in the group. So yes, when they wake up in the morning, you know what happens. How do I handle this? No, mothers, like a single mom, would not be able to understand this. So we've introduced male figures also in the community who are able to do that. Also, there are children now that have not been able to get therapy, yeah, and we are trying to tell their parents that it is okay not to be able to verbalize in communication, but there are other ways. There are apps right now that you can give your child and walk with the tablet and the child can communicate. There's sign language. We have sign language at the center that we are also just encouraging even our therapists. Learn sign language, let everyone learn. Let us be open about the kind of therapy that an individual needs, because it's not a one program fits all for everyone. Yeah, so for those cases we talk about it, and we've had actually parents in our center who've come in and said, you know what, I think I'm autistic. Can I do this assessment? Do you have an assessment tool for adults? So those ones I handle them, and we get them to a neurologist, we get them to a psychotherapist, and now they're able to understand, okay, why do I react like this to situations? Yeah, like
They've lived with it the whole
yes.
time.
Yes.
They come to realize it when they're adults.
Yeah, like for example, when you look back in your school situation when you're back, you'll realize there are some teachers who used to say, this one is slow. Yeah, but you see, autism is a spectrum. There are kids who are very sharp in sciences, but in the arts, you're wondering, how can you be so good in chemistry and you can't get even 10% in history? That's brain balance. And even music therapy also helps you in brain balance, you see. So we get adults who are like that, and they're like, I cannot stand going in maybe in a matatu, because the noise, the what. So we tell them, we have the earmuffs. Yeah, you can do the earmuffs. So we just help them cope, and we encourage, talk about it, tell someone about it, because the more we speak about it, the more we get help.
Thank you so much for that, and that was very inspirational. You know, you're making it seem very possible to do it. At least you're giving people hope back there at home, and that is what we need right now. So thank you so much, Pauline, for the inspiration. I'm sure someone who's watching, their parent just like you is very inspired, and there is hope after all, and for the awareness. Thank you also, Rispa, for the insights. Uko na information, lakini hapo kwa 35 years ndio tumesema bado. Yes, but also to our audience for the amazing questions. We're really grateful. Where can we find you, Pauline?
Yeah, well, you can find us at our socials, Mali Autism Awareness on Facebook, and at Autism Kenya on Autism Awareness Kenya on Instagram. But the school is in Karen Miotoni Road. Just when you get to the hub, you ask about Mali Therapy Center or the school for children with autism, and you'll be led there.
Thank you. And you?
Thank you so much. You'll also find me there as an occupational therapist. Just to mention, we have a range of therapies in there. We have speech therapy, we have applied behavioral analysis, that is ABA. We have now the traumatic music therapy, and we have also a special needs classroom. So it's an umbrella on it. So the early the better. Let our parents just come in, visit us. We are ready to help them.
Thank you so much. So in case you missed this episode, it will be uploaded on our KTN Home YouTube page. Remember, the hashtag on X is hashtag health and wellness. And on our socials at KTN Home, at Ali_Zaitun on Instagram, and at Zaitun Ali on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in today. We meet again next time, same place, same time. God bless you.